All right, I'm out at the track today doing a little weight vest work. With the weight vest, I did some warm-ups using different drills, some jumping, some mini bound type stuff, hamstring bounds, and then hopped into some block starts with the vest. Now this vest is 10 pounds, and let me tell you, this thing is legit. It's way better than the other vest that I was wearing, and I would say this is probably the best weight vest for sprinters. It's the Hyperwear Elite. You can check the link down below. But what I really like about it is this thing hugs your body. It does not bounce around when you're running. It sticks to you like a shirt. Now, the reason that I wanted to use the weight vest here is because recently I got sick. I lost like 10 pounds. And what I find happens when I lose a lot of weight like that is my ability to accelerate goes into the tank. And why is that? Well, if you think about it, you're overcoming gravity when you sprint. If you then take away a bunch of mass, now gravity is acting on your body a little bit less, because you have less mass, so gravity's not pulling down on you quite as hard. So if your brain is used to projecting at certain angles because you're a certain mass all the time, say you're 180 pounds, 185 pounds all the time like me, and then you drop 10 pounds, now all of a sudden your brain is trying to sprint like you were when you were 100, 185 pounds, but if you're 5 to 10 pounds down from that, the angles of projection that you'll need are going to be different than what you've been used to, because gravity is going to be pulling on you less than it was when you were heavier. So my idea with the weight vest was to sort of give my brain and give my body some kind of constraint or cue or stimulus that would pull me down to the ground more so that I could feel the ground contacts a little more each step, focus on using the ground more so I can be forceful, project with force, and project horizontally down the track in acceleration. And after using it, I found that it kind of helped me do what I wanted it to do. At first, with the weight vest, I was running faster than I was without it, which tells me that I'm kind of onto something as far as the projection angles and that sort of thing. If I run faster with 10 more pounds on my body than I do without the 10 pounds, especially in the first 10, then what does that tell me? It tells me that when I take the weight vest off, I'm projecting too high. But when I put the weight vest on, I'm projecting at a good angle and I'm using the ground effectively. So after a few reps, I was able to start to see, okay, now I can run faster without the weight vest by getting my projection angles right. And I think using the weight vest allowed me to sense and feel what I'm supposed to feel that I had maybe lost after taking those 10 days off, laying in bed all day feeling sick. But what I did was I set up the blocks, set up some cones, and I did 20s to start with the weight vest. Then I went to 30s. Then I went and did a 40 and a 50. And I'm starting to see the technique come back that I'm used to seeing. And I think part of that is because I wore the weight vest, and it allowed me to kind of shift my brain a little bit, feel something slightly different, and then be able to modify my technique. I find that if all we ever do is the same thing all the time, it's really hard to change your technique because there's no, you just kind of default to what you've always done. So things like sleds, things like weight vests, things like wickets allow us to stimulate our brain a little bit, change the inputs, change what we're feeling. And if we can change what we're feeling, we can change our technique. And ultimately, I think, this is helping me kind of get back into where I need to be with my acceleration, because if I want a PR in the 100 or get close to a PR, I'm going to have to up my acceleration skills quite a bit and get them back to where they were before I was sick. Now, if you're out at the track and you are going to wear a weight vest, there is one study that suggested if you wear a weight vest in your warm-up, you'll have better performance in your workout. Now, that's going to depend on how many exercises you wear it for, whether or not they're fatiguing, or if it's just sort of stimulating, helps your warm-up, and gives you sort of a potentiation effect. But I do think we can use a weight vest in our training and not just do it in our sprints. You can wear a weight vest when you do sprint drills, because if you do drills all the time, eventually your brain's just going to be like, all right, I'm bored of this, and you're not going to get anything out of them. So if you've done enough drills, maybe wearing a weight vest when you do drills is a good way to overload your tissues, work on joint stiffness, change how it feels, and that might be a benefit to you. Another thing you can do is wear a weight vest when you do hopping and jumping exercises. Now, obviously, I wouldn't suggest doing, high depth jumps with a weight vest, but if you're doing little hops, little bounds, things like that, then a weight vest can overload those ground contacts and change up what your brain is sensing, change up how the tissues are being loaded, and maybe give you a little bit of a greater adaptation, or a little bit greater of a stimulus, I should say, than doing drills and bounds, things like that, without a weight vest. Obviously, you can use a weight vest when you sprint as well. I would say you're better off using a weight vest during acceleration than upright sprinting, mainly just because you're moving so fast in upright sprinting that it gets a little sketchy if you start adding a lot of load. Now, you could probably add a pound or 3 pounds, maybe 5 pounds when you do speed work, and be okay. But if you're gonna go heavier than that, if you're gonna do 10 pounds, 15 pounds, something like that, I would definitely limit to acceleration. I think 10 pounds is probably a safe bet for doing block starts up to about 30 meters, and you should be able to do that and be fine as long as you don't have some pre-existing injury. Now, it is important to get a weight vest that is gonna work well and not gonna bounce around when you're using it, because the last weight vest that I bought, I felt like every time I ran, it was bouncing up and down to where it was hard to predict how each ground contact was gonna feel, and it was sort of inconsistent when I would use it. Now with this weight vest, with the Hyperwear Elite, it sticks to my body, it's really snug, so I have no problems with that bouncing around. My ground contacts feel nice and predictable, and it doesn't distract me when I'm running or jumping. So if you are looking for a good quality weight vest that you can use when you're sprinting, I would definitely suggest you check this one out here. I would look at your sprints and see, A, are you projecting well, or are you projecting too high and spinning your wheels during early acceleration? If you see a lot of switching happening in early acceleration, it might be a sign that you're projecting too high. Obviously, you know, elite sprinters are one thing, but for the rest of us, if you're projecting too high and you're cycling your legs in the air, but you're not moving through the air horizontally, and you're not getting to that next ground contact soon enough, then you're probably not gonna run as fast as you're capable of. So you can use things like a weight vest, like a sled, to modify how you're pushing into the ground, how you're projecting off of the ground, and depending on which tool that you choose on that given day, you know, you should choose that tool based on your needs. Do you feel like you need to really overload the horizontal force vector? Okay, grab a sled. Do you feel like you need to modify gravity and vertical force vectors? Grab a weight vest. Find ways to give your body an environmental constraint, like a weight vest, like a sled, like wickets, to modify the thing in sprinting that you seek to change. If you need to change your projection angles, then consider using a weight vest or a sled. If you need to change your stride frequency, how you're striking the ground, how you're doing an upright sprinting, maybe you try wickets. But get creative, try things out, and see what happens. Do an experiment, wear a weight vest for a while. Today was a mini experiment, and it confirmed what I thought was going on. Whether or not any specific tool is gonna help you or not is gonna depend on your situation. But I think as sprinters, we gotta take advantage of the tools that we can, weight vest, sled, wickets, things like that, modify what our brain is dealing with, modify what our tissues are dealing with, modify how we're loading our body. And if we do that, we can give our body a slightly different stimulus than what we're used to, and maybe get a little bit of an edge, gain a little bit, and eventually run a little bit faster.